come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
More and more people are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive.
Our listeners, our viewers, they're growing.
And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News.
Come and say hello to everybody that's here from GB News.
It's been an exceptional event.
We've come a long way here now.
Thank you, GB News!
What's so unique about GB News viewers is that they really, really love our country.
And they talk about us so proudly. We're on a journey together.
We are here for all of Britain. We believe in this country, we believe in its people, and we believe in all of the communities who live here.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co.
Now get this. Number 10 North will be the nerve centre of a rewired Britain.
OK, I've got it, but let me ask you then, do you think Britain does indeed need a rewiring? And if so, is Andy Burnham the sparky to do it? See what I did there? And I need to talk to you tonight about a decline of a nation. And let me tell you, it's a tale of two parts. These are announcements that we saw up over the weekend. First up, the Home Office loudly and proudly announcing new safe and legal routes for so-called refugees into the UK via community sponsorship that's set to open this year. And then literally in the next breath, they announced that they would decriminalise rough sleeping. Now, taken together, all of this makes me wonder what on earth our politicians are thinking, because I honestly despair. Well, I want to talk about that and a whole lot more. My panel tonight, keeping me company, editor of The Spectator and Conservative peer Michael Gove, and alongside him, former Labour Defence Secretary Jeff Hoon. But before we get stuck in, let's cross and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Very good evening. These are your top stories at 6 o'clock. Now, breaking in the last few minutes, resident doctors in England have voted to accept an offer from the government to improve pay and working conditions. The offer includes more training jobs, faster pay progression, and a plan to cover out-of-pocket expenses like exam fees. Patients have seen hundreds of thousands of appointments cancelled due to industrial action over the past few years, and this news brings their current strike action to an end. Elsewhere, Andy Burnham has promised to give the UK a new direction and fix what he's called a fragmented and disjointed Westminster. In his first major speech since announcing he's running for Labour leadership, he set out plans for the biggest transfer of power out of Whitehall in modern times. So-called Number 10 North would devolve power to Manchester and give more money and control to other regions. The new Labour MP for Makerfield says it's all part of a 10-year plan to raise living standards across the UK. Now, if no other candidate emerges, he could take over from Sir Keir Starmer as the next Prime Minister in a matter of weeks. But Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Daisy Cooper, wasn't convinced by his speech earlier on.
Well, it was high on vibes and low on detail. And the reality is that Andy Burnham has a very small window within which to turn things around for the Labour Party and to turn things around for the country. We want to see meat on the bones as soon as possible.
Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. Around 1 in 10 children are either referred for, waiting for or receiving treatment, with demand almost doubling since 2018. The top reason for referrals is anxiety, and the Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel de Souza, says the intervention needs to be happening far sooner. 6 people have been killed after a shooting in northern Germany. It's understood that all those killed are adults, and the event took place at a maternal care centre. Police say that 2 people have been detained, one of whom is the suspected gunman. However, the motive remains unclear. And Britain's Wimbledon hopes have suffered another major blow. That's as British #1 Cameron Norrie is out of the championship after losing to world number 144, Michael Zen, in the first round. Norrie, the former Wimbledon semi-finalist, had been struggling with a rib injury in the build-up to the tournament. Earlier today, Jack Draper withdrew from the championship due to a returning arm injury, and that follows 24-year-old Emma Raducanu also pulling out due to injury. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour, but now it's back to Michelle.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much for that. Hello, good evening to each and every single one of you. My name is Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. And thank goodness it's a little bit cooler today. I do hope that is the case wherever you are, because this weekend, goodness gracious me, absolutely maffed in. If only we could have air conditioning, ladies and gents. What a treat that would be for some of us, wouldn't it? Do let me know how you get on in this heat. Do you like it, or are you desperate for it to cool down just a little bit? But hey, it's summer, isn't it? We do have to do our best to enjoy it, and we'll try and do just that till 7 o'clock tonight. And alongside me, I've got the editor of The Spectator and Conservative peer, Michael Gove, and alongside him, the former Labour Defence Secretary, Jeff Hoon. Gents, you're very welcome tonight. As of course, each and every single one of you, and I want you to join the conversation tonight. You know the drill, and you know what you're doing by now. You can email me, you can go to the website, of course, you can reach me on social media as well. But of course, today, it was all going on up in Manchester. The King of the North, so-called, Andy Burnham, he was outlining some of his plans. If you missed it, well, let's just do a little recap.
I am going to give Britain the circuit breaker it needs by taking power out of the centre and putting it in the hands of the people and places who can use it best.
Well, let's have a look at what else we perhaps need in our hearts, according to Andy Burnham.
And imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart.
Hope in every heart. Some of the things that some of you lot might have been hoping for in your heart were things like a focus on reducing immigration, etc. Not a mention of that in the Andy Burnham speech. We will be doing a mention of that, though, a little bit later on in the programme. Do you see those announcements over the weekend about safe and legal routes into the country? Is that what you want? Get in touch and tell me. But for now, Andy Burnham. Michael, of course, you were Levelling Up Minister. Is Andy Burnham suggesting basically you failed at your job? If we've got a situation where all of these communities in the north and all the devolution and all the rest of it is yet to happen, then what were you doing when you was in charge of those reins?
Well, I think that it was only ever a job partly done by the last Conservative government. And if Andy Burnham is serious about more devolution, decisions being taken closer to the people who are affected by them, and reviving our manufacturing and industrial base, then great. I think it was the case that everyone who was involved in Levelling Up under the last government recognised that it would be a long haul, that it would take 10 years. And I think Andy Burnham himself acknowledges that. Now, I'm not saying that I'm endorsing Andy Burnham being in power for the next 10 years, but I do think that if he can build a renewed consensus about the importance of making sure that we take the economic fate of the North and Midlands more seriously, that would be a good thing.
One of the first comments I got in tonight, actually, from you guys at home, Catherine. She says, Michelle, I'm sitting here still smiling at the cheek, she says, of a non-elected man stating that he has a 10-year plan. She says 10 minutes he's been in. These people, she says, are so deluded. Are you Northern, by the way? Because many of you do get in touch and you say to me, why do you keep referring to Manchester as the North? Many of you will get in touch much further north than that, and you don't appreciate that description. Anyway, Jeff, your thoughts on all this?
I thought it was genuinely exciting, and I speak as someone who's a thorough provincial, to see movement away from London, an overheated southeast, an overcrowded southeast, where property prices are far too high, people can't afford the home of their own. I think trying to move the centre of gravity away from London and the southeast is a good ambition. I accept there's a lot more detail that still has to be done, and it will take time, and it's probably not for me to defend Michael Gove, but many of those levelling up proposals that he signed off are still only just coming to fruition. So it does take time.
Do you think actually people take the North, because I'm a Northerner, obviously my accent gives it away somewhat, do you think people take Northerners and the North seriously within the political elite?
Certainly, I think once you get beyond Watford, it becomes more difficult to make a case. And the country's diverse. And I'm not sure that we necessarily want to replace Manchester with London and vice versa. It is about moving the centre of gravity, both political gravity, but crucially, in terms of this speech, economic gravity, away from London and the South East. That has to be in everyone's interest. It's actually in the interests of people in London and the South East, because property is simply unaffordable.
But you see, I mean, it is, no one would deny that in London. Where I'm from, Hull, and I always I use Hull as my yardstick, really. I am being a little bit flippant, but you used to be able to almost buy Hull for £1 million. Slight exaggeration, but, you know, you get my point. When I look at Hull and places like that now, £1 million houses are just kind of big houses. They're not humongous mansions anymore. When you look at terrace houses, where you used to be, you know, that was very much your starter home. Your starter homes now, easy 150, 250. I'm seeing now Hull starting to get the price traction that London's got, but without the wage traction. Yep. And I sit there and I think to myself, you can't afford to live in London. And it worries me that actually this is now trickling out. So it's all well and good talking about levelling up, great level of opportunities and all the rest of it. But if you're going to start replicating the out-of-control housing market, the likes of London and all the rest of it that's commonplace and typical here, into those parts like Hull, you're just going to create absolute carnage, even more so in those towns and cities.
Well, there are three very important points that you make. The first, of course, is that we need to build more houses everywhere. And so the pressure on house prices is partly because we haven't built enough of them. Another problem to lay at my door from the past. The second is that actually, even within the North and the Midlands of England, I mean, I come from further north, from Aberdeen. You do. But within the North and Midlands of England, it's a varied picture. So just outside Hull is Beverley, a very prosperous town. Yeah, in Yorkshire itself, Leeds is thriving, Bradford not so much. In Manchester itself, the very heart of Manchester is doing well, Stockport is doing well, less so in Oldham and Rochdale. So again, the closer you look, the more you see these inequalities and the more that requires to be done to improve it. And critical to that is getting the private sector involved. Because one of the problems that we have is that too many of the jobs and too many of the people who are able to afford the high house prices in the North and Midlands are folk in public sector jobs. Nothing wrong with them doing fantastic work in the NHS or in universities or whatever, but there aren't enough jobs in a thriving private sector, in thriving industry and manufacturing.
So why didn't you build enough houses then? By your own admission then, you've just said that that's something that you didn't do as well on as you might have liked or whatever, but why? A
cartel of house builders. So one of the principal reasons why we build too few houses is that housing is concentrated in 4 or 5 big house builders. The second thing is NIMBYism in particular communities where there was a resistance to new houses because they weren't of the quality required along with the infrastructure required. And then the third thing is increasingly, and indeed Andy Burnham actually touched on this, the financial commercialisation of the housing market, whereby there are some people who regard housing as a commodity to be traded rather than a home that you make your own.
And I think it's interesting, actually, that the Tories are not calling, currently anyway, for a general election when it comes to Andy Burnham. That surprises me. Why not?
Well, I don't know.
Do you think there should be one?
I think I can see both sides of the argument, actually. So on the one hand, I can see why a new Prime Minister might want to have a new mandate, but it is part of our parliamentary system that if a Prime Minister loses the confidence of his party and a majority in the House of Commons and someone else can command it, they can carry on. And actually, in some cases, that can lead to greater flexibility and more responsiveness. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule that means that any new Prime Minister has to call a general election. I don't think that it's an automatic absolute requirement.
What do you think then, Jeff, about the fact, because Andy Burnham's got a lot of criticism today because he did his speech in Manchester and then he says for time reasons, because he wanted to get back to London, he didn't have time to take questions at all from the media, from journalists, etc. What do you think to that?
Well, I'm sure in due course he will. But at the moment, we're not even at day one. We're at minus 19 or something, on the assumption that no one challenges him in the election in the Labour Party. And therefore, I think he's entitled some space to set out his thinking, and once that has been done, to take questions, I'm sure vigorous questions from a vigorous media.
Gareth, he's got in touch and said, Michelle, we've got enough civil servants, thank you. He says creating a devolved North is essentially just going to create a lot more positions, a lot more bureaucracy, a lot more cost for us, the taxpayers. Someone else that's been speaking out against this today, Nigel Farage. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
So the big Andy Burnham speech today, he's going to rebalance power in Britain. What it means, of course, is more and more devolution, as if by magic that's going to solve everything. Well, just ask yourself a question. Has devolution in London, with Mayor Sadiq Khan, made London streets safer? No. Has devolution in Wales given them a better NHS or education? No, they're the worst in the country. And has devolution in Scotland cleaned up Scottish politics? Well, I think the recent jailing of one of the former bosses of the SNP would say no. Just to give more and more powers, indeed including tax-raising powers, to mayors all over the country of itself won't stop the boats, won't deal with the national debt. And frankly, I think what you're seeing from Andy Burnham is what he thinks is the big idea, but it's not going to work because he says it'll take 10 years to lift Britain back up to where it needs to be. I would suggest those of us that believe that Britain is broken would say we haven't got 10 years. The country will be totally unrecognisable in 10 years. What the country wants is immediate action. And I tell you what, they're not going to get it from Mr. Burnham. Or should I say, open borders Andy.
Open borders Andy. Open borders Burnham, I think, would have had a better ring to it, but there you go. Phil says, Michelle, talking about devolution, you just need to look to places like Wales, he says. It hasn't worked there at all. Lots of you are saying, Michelle, you don't imagine, actually, that people, the powerhouses, so to speak, from London would actually want to relocate to places in the north. See, that's an interesting point there. How do you see, or do you see, if this number 10 of the North is to be established, do you think that that would lead to a slashing and a reduction of people and roles and all the rest of it within Westminster, or a duplication?
It could lead, should lead to a slashing of roles in Whitehall and Westminster. And the last government moved, for example, some of the big Treasury decision makers to Darlington. It helped boost Darlington's economy. It's not enough on its own just to have some mandarins there, but it was part of a revivification of Darlington alongside other investment, including from the private sector. But you do need to, if you're going to move those jobs, cut the jobs in SW1 as well.
What do you think? Look, you've seen some of those clips. Many of you will have watched that speech as well this morning. Many of you were previous Labour voters, I know that. Many of you also are sitting on the fence trying to work out where to place your vote next time. Does Andy Burnham? Do you like the cut of his jib or his T-shirt or whatever it is? Would he get your vote? Do you want to see more? And what about this lack of scrutiny? Jeff is very optimistic that that scrutiny will come. Do you trust that? And the big $1 million million question, of course, is how on earth is any of this going to be paid for? Do you suspect that tax rises may indeed be on the way? And if so, where do you think that they will be likely to fall? Coming up after the break, did you see all this over the weekend? What on earth is going on when it comes to the minds of our politicians? The Labour Party proudly announcing new so-called safe and legal routes will soon come into play for so-called refugees. I want to have a look at that after the break.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very easy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, till 7, alongside me the editor of The Spectator and Conservative peer Michael Gove, and alongside him the former Labour Defence Secretary Jeff Hoon. Welcome back everybody. Now, I saw 2 interesting announcements that caught my eye over the weekend, and especially I think when you put them together, they just create absolute carnage, in my humble opinion, in this nation, and I honestly do not know what goes through the minds of politicians. Let's take each of these announcements in turn then, shall we? The first one was the Home Office announcing new sponsorship schemes. This is essentially like the Ukrainian scheme, where they would offer what they say is capped, safe and legal routes to so-called refugees. This is always supposed to be about reducing these not so small boat crossings coming into this country. I personally think this is absolutely... in fact, actually, I'll start with you because it's a Labour idea. Sorry, Mike. Michael. You'll just have to hold your thoughts. I think this is absolutely preposterous. People in this country want fewer. Ideally, actually, many would say zero refugees, asylum seekers, migrants, etc., into this country. They don't want more safe and legal routes, so-called.
Well, let's start with the problem. The problem is that there are genuine asylum seekers, people who genuinely, fearing for their lives, flee where they have been living.
Yeah.
And this country has a very long and proud tradition of offering asylum to such people. The issue is how you resolve that. And whoever is in power, Conservatives, Reform, Labour, will have to address that problem. Because I recognise that some of those people are not genuine asylum seekers. They are economic migrants who want to come to the UK for a better life. But we have to find a way of working out what this particular individual who presents himself or herself as an asylum seeker, whether they are genuinely fearing persecution or whether they are an economic migrant. That's the problem.
I just want to bring up a graph, actually, in terms of the number of people claiming asylum in the country. I mean, we are talking scores and scores of people now. And when you look at these kind of so-called safe and legal routes as well, we've had about, well, this is not a safe and legal route, but you've had about 200,000 people crossing on these not-so-small boats. You've had 260,000 people coming on these Ukraine schemes, 180-odd from Hong Kong, nearly 40,000 from Afghanistan. And you say that we've got this, you know, this all proud tradition and all the rest of it. Many people, Jeff, watching this programme tonight, they would be sitting there and going, actually, charity begins at home. And whilst it is indeed very sad that there seem to be conflicts all over the world, and no one would dispute that it is indeed very sad, people watching this at home, they are struggling. They are not having a good quality of life in this country anymore. They are fed up of their communities, neighbourhoods and all the rest of it changing beyond recognition. And actually, they've got to the point now where their sympathy lays more with their fellow Brits than it does outsiders. They want a line to be drawn now. And I know this because they get in touch with me every single day and tell me this.
I get that, and I've heard that view expressed many, many times on the doorstep. So I'm not in any way diminishing that argument. But what I am saying is that those same people presented with an individual fearing for their lives, fleeing their country, actually have tremendous generosity. But what's important to those people that you're rightly emphasising is that this person is genuine, not someone who's an economic migrant. And the scheme that the Home Secretary has announced has been working extremely well in Canada since 1979. I think it's right that we should learn from good experience, good practice elsewhere, and it's right that we should take an opportunity here to distinguish between those who are economic migrants, who we do not wish to allow to come into the UK, and those who are genuinely fearing for their lives.
I thought the Canadians were starting to look at pausing that or something because it was starting to become unpopular. Am I wrong?
Well, I'm sure that there is criticism of every scheme of this kind elsewhere. But one of the advantages of the Canadian scheme, this kind of sponsorship means that someone might arrive here who's a genuine asylum seeker and be provided with a job and provided by an organisation like a university or another similar charitable organisation with a place to live. So actually the pressures on people here already would be reduced, because I totally get the argument that says, why should people come into this country and stay in a hotel when actually we're struggling to pay the rent or pay our mortgage? That I understand.
It's not even about hotels anymore. I mean, the argument has moved on way beyond hotels. I mean, the fact that people were placed in 4-star hotels is so insulting. It's so insulting to people watching this programme, I can't even tell you. And we've rehashed that argument millions of times now. It's not even that anymore. It's about basic housing now. There are areas in this country where new build housing is springing up, and they are sometimes in the main allocated to so-called asylum seeker families. Many of my viewers have been sat on the housing list for God knows how many years, in some cases decades, by the way, because I asked you the other day to tell me examples of how long you've been languishing on these housing lists. They find it so insulting. I mean, I swear like a trooper when I'm not at work, but I'm conscious that I'm at work, so I'm trying to temper my language. But I could turn the air, you know, all kinds of different colours if I told you the strength of feeling that people have at home about this. So it's not just about hotels. It's about many British people want British people to be put first and not foreigners, whatever their circumstances may be.
I really don't think that is quite as widespread as you describe. I accept that there are examples of that happening, but nevertheless...
Why is reform leading in the polls then? Why is immigration constantly coming top then of all the polls nationally when people are asked, what is your primary concern in this country?
Well, for all the
it's
reasons...
not just me living in a bubble of Michelle then.
No, for all the reasons that you've rightly given, that people are under pressure. They find the cost of living difficult to accept. They find it's difficult when their children can't find homes to live in. So I recognise there is a deep-seated concern about immigration. The government gets that as well, which is why they've been taking a series of steps to deal with this problem.
I don't think they do. I don't think your government gets it. I certainly don't think your government got it either, Michael, because I think when I talk about the frustration that people have when it comes to migration and all the rest of it and the changing demographics, and you point to things like the Boris wave, I actually feel that people out there watching, they absolutely despair because they feel that your Conservative Party absolutely did not get it. The current Labour Party, they feel, absolutely do not get it. And when people talk about why the likes of Reform are rising up, why in some places the likes of Restore are popping up, it's because of that primary concern, changing demographics, changing communities, and it's against the wishes of the British people.
Did you think the Homes for Ukraine scheme was a good idea?
I think the Homes for Ukraine scheme was first and foremost a temporary situation. I think that the people that you were bringing into this country, they're from the same continent as us. There was not a hugely, vastly cultural difference. It was predominantly, as I'm sure you will recall, women and children. It certainly wasn't predominantly single men from a vastly different culture to ours. No. So I think in terms of the situation there, many people didn't really have a massive problem with that. But when you start talking about, actually, do you know what? You can sponsor some random guy from Eritrea, Sudan, all these places that are literally culturally different worlds. I mean, you're not even allowed to use the term alien cultures now. You get in trouble for that. But they are the things that are raising alarm bells for people with schemes such as these.
The thing with a sponsorship scheme is that you have to look after the person who is welcomed into this country. It will be your home. It will be your responsibility to look after them. So it's not the case that the taxpayer bears the cost of paying for them to be in an HMO or a hotel or providing social housing for them. So provided that they are people who are legitimate refugees, then it's a voluntary effort on the part of the individual who says, I will give this person a roof over their head, a bed, and support. And that's what happened with the Homes for Ukraine scheme.
Yes, but what people watching this programme will be shouting, I can almost hear you from the studio here, they'll be shouting that everyone understands what the scheme is and everyone understands that you need a sponsor. But everyone also understands that there will be no shortage of people now from these areas because it feels to many like you've let half of the third world into Britain. And people might raise eyebrows and say, oh, how dare she speak like that and all the rest. I'm speaking like that because for many people, that absolutely feels like it's their reality. So I don't deny that there will be queues of people that are desperate to bring their long-lost uncle over here and they're this and they're that. I don't dispute that for a second. That doesn't mean that people will be happy with that.
No, and they'll only be able to come if they're legitimate refugees. But more than that, it's also the case that the current plan of the Home Secretary is for lots of people who are currently here who think that they're going to get indefinite leave to remain to be deported. It's also the plan of the current Home Secretary to deal with illegal boat crossings. Now, I think that, as it happens, you need to have offshore processing of the kind that the last government was thinking about with Rwanda. I won't defend the last government's position on migration in every regard. Absolutely not. But what I do think it's important to recognise is that if you're restructuring, as we need to do, the whole approach towards migration, you need to deal with illegal migration, remove some of the people who came here as a result of lax policies in the past, but at the same time have a controlled route which is capped and which also relies not on the taxpayer, but an individual. And if that individual wants to bring someone in here who's got a criminal record, who's going to be trouble, who's going to add to the tax burden, they don't come in. I think that's fair enough.
I feel, and maybe I'm just on a different, I don't know, maybe I'm just on a different wavelength or something. Maybe I'm in my own little bubble. I still feel like I'm not sure you get it. I just feel that the sense out there, the demographic changes within this country, people don't want any more of it. People feel that in the not too distant future, they're going to start to become a minority in this country.
Well, first of all, it depends on what you mean by minority and who we're classifying in that regard. But more broadly,
well, let's just pick something out of thin air. White British people. They might be watching this. Many of them will be watching this and saying, actually, Michelle, we feel in the not too distant decades ahead, we will become a minority in this country.
Yeah, the first thing I was going to say is I think once one starts talking about white as a term which defines whether or not someone is British, then look at the England football team. Look at the people who've been Prime Minister. No, I think once you start talking, Michelle, once you start talking about black and white as what defines British, that is problematic. And more to the point,
I'm sorry.
No, more to the point. What is wrong with A, ending illegal migration, B, dealing with the backlog of people who are currently here under indefinite leave to remain? What is wrong with that?
Well, I'm going to respond to this because I'm not having this. You're allowed to talk about black people.
Yeah.
You're allowed to talk about brown people. You're allowed to talk about every single group under the sun. But the second you mention the word white, all hell breaks loose, and apparently that is a taboo thing that shouldn't be said, shouldn't be suggested. I'm not having this. Let's discuss this after the break, because I think there's so much more that needs to be said. You're itching to come back, aren't you?
I am.
Let's come back.
I'm not even an England fan, but Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka are heroes.
Let's come back after the break and we'll continue this conversation.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The very hot weather in Western Europe is moving into the east and towards the Mediterranean, towards Italy as well as Greece through this next few days. Reasonably warm across the Canary Islands, 32 degrees for Tenerife on Tuesday. Temperatures close to the lower 30s across Portugal, Spain and France. But for Italy and Greece, the high 30s approaching 40 degrees through the next few days, which brings with it a risk of thundery downpours. And that risk continues well into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Rain will move into parts of the north and west through tonight. Cloudy and breezy night to come for most of us, particularly for western areas, and it will be feeling warmer by tomorrow morning, but quite a bit wetter for some of us as low pressures approaching from the Atlantic, introducing a weather front. Spells of wet weather are likely across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland in particular. It's particularly more southwestern areas of Scotland and the central belt that will see the heaviest rain overnight tonight. Elsewhere, outbreaks of rain are likely. I think most of us are going to see at least some rain overnight, but very little across more southern areas. It's quite light rainfall, but with lots of cloud around, it is going to be a mild start to the day. Temperatures at least 15 degrees or higher by the morning. Plenty of cloud around across more northern areas, some quite brisk southwesterly winds across more western areas of the southwest coast of Scotland. Lots of cloud around, heavy bursts of rain are expected as well. As I said, it's parts of the central belt where we're likely to see the heaviest rainfall through the day. Across more southern areas of the UK, it should be a relatively dry and bright start to the day. Not too much in the way of sunshine away from the very far southeast, but it is going to be a pretty bright day across more eastern areas. I don't think we'll see too much rain across the east. Elsewhere, a risk of showers, some of these heavy and thundery, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, as well as some areas of northern England. Some very heavy showers, perhaps across parts of North Wales too. Quite widely temperatures in the low 20s, 25 degrees, possible in the best of the sunshine across the south and east. Wednesday brings with it more cloud across the north and west, but another dry and bright day across more eastern areas, particularly through the morning. Risk of showers into the afternoon, but we're not expecting any thundery downpours through Wednesday. That rain then clears by Thursday to bring many of us a very sunny end to the week, with temperatures climbing once again to the higher 20s, with 30 degrees possible on the weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M8 eastbound at Hermiston Gate has restrictions due to a broken down vehicle. One lane is closed on the A19 southbound exit to the A61 in North Yorkshire, expecting normal traffic by 7:15. The M6 northbound in Cheshire East is clearing between junctions 19 and 20 by 6:30. Surrey's M25 anti-clockwise has 2 lanes closed between junctions 6 and 5, causing 50-minute delays. Essex reports 30-minute delays on the A12 southbound between junctions 12 and 11. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and cross-country services face disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs Anchor with me, Michelle Dewberry, alongside me until 7 o'clock tonight, the editor of The Spectator and Conservative peer, Michael Gove, and alongside him, I've got the former Labour Defence Secretary, Jeff Hoon. Welcome back, gents. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, before the break, I was just expressing my concerns. My alarm bells were ringing this weekend. 2 separate policies that, when you put them together, in my mind, they really do signal a sense of despair, for me anyway, a wrong direction of travel in this country. The first one, which is what we're just exploring, is the expansion of safe and legal routes, so-called, to, again, so-called refugees that will be opening a bit later on this year. The second policy announcement was the decriminalisation, essentially, of rough sleeping. Michael and I were just having a heated conversation. I almost forgot you was there, Jeff. Sorry, I will bring you back in.
Michael was doing such a good Liberal job.
I know, I won't be so rude in this next part, I promise you. But what I'm trying to express, because I speak to just normal people every single day in this country by virtue of doing this programme, the concern that people have about the change of the demographic, the change of their local community, the changes of their streets. And when people are talking about, you know, oh, we've got obligations to help people in conflict zones, you're talking to me about, oh, well, it's all fine because people will sponsor these individuals, so the impact on the taxpayer potentially will be minimum. I just don't think that the majority of the public see it this way. I think that there is a significant concern of demographic change, cultural change, religious change, you name it. For many people, and I'm not suggesting this is everybody in the land, but it's a sizable number, I would say it's probably a sizable majority, they don't like the direction of travel. They feel that it is completely opposite what they have democratically voted for time and time and time and time again in this country, Michael. And that's the point.
I think those are fair points. And I think that all I would do is to draw a distinction between having one way of managing migration and then some of the other issues that you raise. So if it were the case that everything in this country remained the same and there was another migration route in, then I would say absolutely not. It's the case, however, that you, I believe, can have a route, a safe and legitimate route for refugees, if you also tackle the abuses of the system. And then when we're talking about change, the change for me shouldn't be one that's determined on the basis of colour. It should be on the basis of conviction. Do you want to be British? Are you prepared to subscribe to the core values of Britishness?
But what? I mean, if I decided I wanted to be Japanese, I'm not going to be Japanese, am I?
But one of the glories about the United Kingdom.
Let's just express this point. If I decide to go and get a job in Japan and I decide I want to be Japanese, nobody's going to take me seriously if I describe myself as Japanese. Likewise, if I meandered off to China and decided I want to live there, again, if I describe myself as a Chinese person, nobody's going to really take me seriously.
I think one of the differences between the United Kingdom and certainly China, Japan is a more complex case, is that people have come here over time, fleeing persecution or seeking a better life, and they've become British. So if one looks at Britain's Hindu or Sikh or Jewish communities, then I don't think that anyone can say that they're anything other than effectively integrated. I don't think you can look at Rishi Sunak's parents and say they're not British.
Well, I saw a case at the weekend, and I've got to watch my footing here because it's a live case, so I can't speculate about the guilt of the person involved. But they were talking about it was like a British Somalian or a Somalian British man or something. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Mo Farah.
If someone is... I know, but what I'm trying to say is, and again, I maybe shouldn't have used this example because it's a live case that I probably can't delve into.
No.
It's about... When somebody wants to understand the picture in this country, when you want to understand, for example, crime statistics by ethnicity and all the rest of it, we're constantly getting told. There was a guy the other day and he got wheeled out as a Yorkshireman. And I looked at the picture and I looked at the guy and I looked at his background. I was like, he's not a Yorkshireman. And I found it deeply insulting that somebody had come to my county, Yorkshire, and is now actively described as a Yorkshireman when he absolutely isn't. And the point that I was raising to you before the break is that when we're talking about these influxes of people and all the rest of it, and I'm saying to you that many white Britons in this country, they do fear that they are going to become a minority in this country.
And not only that, there are lots of people from different groups and different communities who are concerned, legal migrants and people whose families came here 10, 20 or 50 years ago, who also want migration to be managed effectively as well. And if there are people here who have a laugh, if there are people who come here who are drug dealers, criminals, who make themselves deliberately reliant on the state because they're not going to contribute, if there are people who seek to lead parallel lives, if there are people who don't respect our principles, our history and our culture, of course that's a problem.
I know, but Michael,
but as soon as you make it about black or white, literally, then I think that is problematic.
No, what I was saying to you is that there is a number of white British people in this country that feel that they are going to become, in the not-too-distant decade, a minority in this country. And what I will say is, when you're talking about ethnicity and culture and all the rest of it, the fact that people in the political establishment do not seem to acknowledge the very basic and simple fact that cultures are different. And when you talk about picking up these men from these conflict zones and all the rest of it, you're talking about potentially picking up men that have literally been born, bred and raised and all the rest of it in conflict zones. Extreme violence is their norms. And people seem to think you can just pick these fellas up, put them on a not-so-small boat or put them into a community scheme and all the rest of it and transplant them into streets and communities in this country and all will be tickety-boo. And I don't understand why people in politics don't seem to understand what normal people on the street can see 100 miles off, which is that there are cultural differences that are putting British people at risk.
But, Michelle, I think you're missing a point here.
What?
And it's you're making what I would describe as an anonymous generalisation about black people, brown people, people from a different culture and different background. The reality is...
I never mentioned black people, by the way, so I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway...
When those people are treated as individuals by those same British people that you're talking about, actually, they get along perfectly well.
Oh, come on.
And there's a huge difference.
So you're telling me that some people, like some cultures, they don't have disproportionate numbers of sexual crimes originating, etc. You're telling me that some cultures do not have completely different attitudes to women and girls, for example.
But again, you're generalising. But it is. It's a generalisation based on not knowing individuals.
This is why this country, no offence, gents, I think you're very nice men and all the rest of it, but in my humble opinion, this is why I think that this country is going in a terrible, terrible direction. And do you know what? I'm happy to put my hands up. I'm in a minority on this panel, and I perhaps am in a minority throughout the whole nation. you will get in touch and you will tell me. I want to talk, though, about my second part of the alarm bells. We will carry on this conversation. The decriminalisation of rough sleeping. When you take that with the policy I've just been talking about, where do you think this nation's going to end up? I'll see you in a second.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And it's Father's Day. I don't know if my dad's up yet. If you are, happy Father's Day.
He's already texted.
Is he?
He's tuning in.
Mr. Reaper, good morning to you.
Sunday, well, speaking of Sunday lunches, he'll be having a roast pork joint later, courtesy of myself.
Good, good.
Cards and gifts are a big part of the day, of course, but it's also important to remember that there is more to it than that.
Yeah, because it's not just about one day, is it? Actually, it's like, what do dads do? And healthy fathers, a healthy sort of father-son, father-daughter relationship builds strong families, builds strong communities and helps build a strong country, actually.
Well, that is why mentoring the next generation matters more than ever. So take a little extra time today. Make sure you do, to appreciate not just the fathers or the grandfathers or the uncles out there, but any strong father figure that you may have.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome back to Breakfast, 25 minutes past 6. And breaking news this morning, the TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson has revealed that he's been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer in an emotional video.
In the scenes, he's telling his co-stars Caleb Cooper and Charlie Ireland, his land agent and his farm manager, and they're both devastated, as you can imagine. You know, it's a huge bombshell to drop on them. He's only 66. He's made no secrets that he's maybe not lived the healthiest lifestyle. After the heart problems, he bemoans having to eat Greek yogurt and kale and whatnot. But following this, I think he's going to have a complete lifestyle overhaul even further, and just fingers crossed the treatment proves effective.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Hello there, Emily and Tom. Yes, some breaking news in the last few moments from Kensington Palace regarding our future king, Prince George of Wales, the oldest son of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The short statement from Kensington Palace reads, Kensington Palace can confirm that Prince George will attend Eton College in September. That news just coming in from the royal household in the last few moments. This clearly is, well, perhaps not surprising news for those in royal circles. Eton College, the most prestigious school, arguably in the country, educating 20 prime ministers and, of course, Prince George's own father and uncle, Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as 2 Dukes of Gloucester, the Duke of Kent and Prince Michael of Kent as well. So that confirmation just coming in from Kensington Palace, £63,000 a year it costs to send a child to Eton College.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello everybody, Michelle Dewberry, Jeff Hoon and Michael Gove with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Lots of you are getting in touch on this safe and legal route. What you're saying is, and I mean this is the kind of point really, what the government are trying to address, because lots of you are saying that people are not fleeing France, quote, fearing for their life. And to be fair, I think this is the point that Jeff was trying to make earlier on about trying to differentiate between general, genuine asylum seekers and so-called economic migrants. The government actually think that they are going to solve that with these safe and legal routes. But anyway, from today, rough sleeping, get this, has now been decriminalised. I've only got a few minutes left because I've spent all my time ranting about changes. Talk me through this. Why is this a good idea?
Well, first of all, nobody deliberately rough sleeps. There are people who, for various reasons, lose their homes. They may have a variety of different mental and other problems, and they end up sleeping on the streets. Nobody does that deliberately. So to criminalise someone who, through their misfortune, ends up sleeping overnight on a street in this country, it's ridiculous. I was going to, when I knew this was coming up, I was going to say this for Victorian, because Victorian is used as a description of something that's way out of date. This legislation was passed in 1824, even before Queen Victoria came to the throne. So this is outdated, old-fashioned, unnecessary legislation.
Right, so help me understand something then. If you're a Monopoly player, you will know what Park Lane is. It's one of the most expensive real estate areas on the board. Look at this. This was a video that I filmed not that long ago, actually. Play this clip and you'll see exactly what I'm referring to. Watch. Well, there you go. If you're listening on the radio, that is basically, I was going through Park Lane. I was filming what can only be described as a tent city, quite frankly. Patrick Christie, he paid the encampment a visit. Take a watch to see what happened to Patrick Christie's.
Hello. Who wants to leave the CHR is a far-right fascist.
Every time I watch that clip, I do indeed laugh. I do hope that that was water and not urine that young Patrick had chucked over him there. How do you get rid of or move along encampments like that then, if you've decriminalised rough sleeping?
Well, there's a whole set of laws that
What's the top
councils, government can use to remove people from property where they should not be.
But what's the top one? So if it's not illegal to do that, what's the top way then that you remove them?
Well, you take legal action to remove them, and that's something that local authorities have the power to do.
Well, yeah, because it's criminal to rough sleep like that. But now it's decriminalised.
No. But even if they weren't sleeping, if you set up a tent city like that on the public highway, the police can move you on. You can be arrested for. There are 101 offences from obstructing the public highway to public disorder. The problem is not the Vagrancy Act. The problem is the willingness of the police to engage with people who are breaking the law in that way. Similarly, when you get aggressive begging and panhandling. So, of course, the police should be dealing with it. But it is also the case that there will be some people who will find themselves on the streets for a night or two who need help, not criminalisation. But if you have people who are behaving like that, which is manifestly antisocial, then their feet shouldn't touch the ground.
I've done a lot of work as a volunteer, actually, with homeless people. I actually employed a young man, one of the best employees I've ever had, actually. I employed him off the streets. I would argue that there does indeed sometimes need to be a carrot and a stick approach. Anyway, what do you think to all of this? The Home Office say that return and deportations are at the highest level in nearly a decade. Nearly 70,000 people who have no right to be here have been removed, they say, since this government have taken office. They say that they will see thousands more foreign criminals and illegal migrants who have no right to be here removed. I've been on a minority of one on this panel tonight, but I tell you...
But not ranting, Michelle. You have been the voice of cold common sense.
Let me tell you, if I ranted, if I said what's on the tip of my tongue, I'd never be seen on the airwaves again, ladies and gents, and it's pretty...
We'd lead a campaign to bring you back.
Well, he says that now. That's all I've got time for. Night, everybody.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Rain will move into parts of the north and west through tonight. Cloudy and breezy night to come for most of us, particularly for western areas, and it will be feeling warmer by tomorrow morning, but quite a bit wetter for some of us as low pressures approaching from the Atlantic, introducing a weather front. Spells of wet weather are likely across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland in particular. It's particularly more southwestern areas of Scotland and the central belt that will see the heaviest rain overnight tonight. Elsewhere, outbreaks of rain are likely. I think most of us are going to see at least some rain overnight, but very little across more southern areas. It's quite light rainfall, but with lots of cloud around, it is going to be a mild start to the day. Temperatures at least 15 degrees or higher by the morning. Plenty of cloud around across more northern areas. Some quite brisk southwesterly winds across more western areas of the southwest coast of Scotland. Lots of cloud around, heavy bursts of rain are expected as well. As I said, it's parts of the central belt where we're likely to see the heaviest rainfall through the day. Across more southern areas of the UK, it should be a relatively dry and bright start to the day. Not too much in the way of sunshine away from the very far southeast, but it is going to be a pretty bright day across more eastern areas. I don't think we'll see too much rain across the east. Elsewhere, a risk of showers, some of these heavy and thundery, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, as well as some areas of northern northern England. Some very heavy showers, perhaps across parts of North Wales too. Quite widely, temperatures in the low 20s, 25 degrees, possible in the best of the sunshine across the south and east. Wednesday brings with it more cloud across the north and west, but another dry and bright day across more eastern areas, particularly through the morning. Risk of showers into the afternoon, but we're not expecting any thundery downpours through Wednesday. That rain then clears by Thursday to bring many of us a very sunny end to the week, with temperatures climbing once again to the higher 20s, with 30 degrees possible on the weekend. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption.